everyone. Today I am going to be addressing a film that came out fairly recently, last year actually, and it's been receiving enormous praise. And although I think it does have some good aspects to this film in particular, again, I don't completely dislike this film, I still feel like a lot of elements that are within it don't hold a candle to maybe other films that have tried to do this similar formula that this film ultimately tries to present. And this film, as you can see by the title, is called Gravity. Now, before you all get your pitchforks and your torches and whatever not, let me just explain a few reasons why I think, in particular, Gravity is overrated. The thing about Gravity is that there's not a whole lot of, I think, really big development with the characters. Sandra Bullock's character in particular, considering the fact that she's the main character, and she's just kind of the everyday woman, and that's how she ends up as the everyday woman who managed to survive space. Yay! Okay. But I really don't see anything all that compelling about her character. We don't really see any interaction between her and her daughter, who she talks about within the movie, but we never see them together. So, again, I felt that there was really a lack of character relationships and sort of the development. So when you put in these survival-like circumstances, the audience, I think, feels more if you show these relationships to some extent. And I felt like this movie didn't really try to work on the characters. I think instead it tried to be a visual masterpiece, which it is. I'm not going to say that all they have is, a really, cut out Earth, and then you have the astronauts, sort of going around in space. No, this is very visually appealing. It's visual eye candy for all of those who enjoy space, or who have sort of maybe aspirations for being an astronaut. You will enjoy this film visually. There's just no way. I don't think anybody is disputing the visual effects of this movie. But I think the thing about this movie is that I don't think it has a lot of, again, the character development, character relationships that these other disaster movies really focus on and really get the audience sort of invested. But it also lacks a good dialogue. There's a lot of really awkward bits within this movie. I feel like a lot of it is fairly dull. George Clooney seems to be the only character I feel that has actual personality, and he gets killed off. So, again, his character, I think, though, makes sense, considering that a lot of astronauts, a lot of people who enjoy space are really into the adrenaline rush and really like being on the edge. I could see a movie, if the movie maybe focused on George Clooney's character as being the one that's the surviving person, the person that actually we explore and we have a connection with, then I think this movie probably would have turned out a lot better, because, again, he sort of has a really distinct personality, and there's a lot of appeal that can come from that. Especially when usually when you see in survival movies, people are just so completely traumatized. And again, Sandra Bullock's completely traumatized throughout this entire movie. But, George Clooney just kind of takes it with a grain of salt. So, what is Gravity ultimately about? Let me first just get that out of the way. Gravity, in a nutshell, all it is about these astronauts that are in space, and I guess a Russian satellite exploded or they took down their satellite. And then this resulted in a variety of debris coming, and then more debris comes, and I think a lot of people have commented on how unrealistic it is to what actually would be a scenario within space. And even though it's visually stunning and it gets the visuals down really well, there seems to be a lack of science there, and I understand that. There's some things within this movie that I don't think work all that well, especially when you're trying to make it be in this kind of potentially realistic setting. Like, just certain things that happen within the film, I think, are just a little bit too overblown. And again, I know this is Hollywood. We've seen them overblow things a couple of times, but I felt like this was almost way too overblown for the circumstances. But again, I'm going to sort of being contrasting this with something like Castaway. Now, Castaway is, yes, it's not maybe the most particularly realistic survival story, but it does have elements where you do see the struggle with the character in order to survive. You see his past life before he ends up in the circumstances that he's in. And there's sort of a full circling around of what happens when he ultimately gets out of that circumstance. With Gravity, she just lands on Earth, the end. The end. No exploration really afterwards. Just, yeah, I survived. See, the problem with Gravity, I think, is its simplicity. It doesn't try to push the envelope when it comes to creating a survival type story. Instead, it just focuses on these visuals. And I think really the visuals were a detriment to this movie, because what happens in Hollywood is people get all wound up about the visual. Oh, look at how pretty it is. Oh, look at how grand it is. And then they don't put any emotion behind the visuals. There's, I think, a lot of boring parts within this movie. Even though it's fairly short, it's still pretty boring. There's just parts of it that just really don't really draw you in unless again it's the visual look of it. It's kind of the same with Avatar, I think. I think you could put this movie in a similar category with Avatar, in that it did focus more on the visual and not on the story and not on the characters, and hence we get something that's a little bit more cliche. And yeah, it is cliche, but again, it's how you use the cliches, okay? It's not whether or not the movie has cliches. And this is why I think people are missing the criticism of this movie. The real criticism of this movie is that it doesn't do anything with the cliches that it tries to ultimately bring to the table. It focuses on a character who we really don't really know anything so much about. I mean, when George Clooney is describing his life, or talking about things like in the beginning about how certain things going on within his life, that guy's so much more interesting. I'd rather, talk to this guy than really talk to Sandra Bullock, because her character's not really all that compelling. She just doesn't really have anything to offer. And I think had they focused in on George Clooney's character and had him be really the survivor of this story, I think it would not only be the more realistic approach, because again, sometimes even Sandra Bullock doesn't even really know what she's doing. I mean, and then George Clooney has to help her, like, all the time until he dies. I mean, it's like, I don't get it. I don't understand, like, and he has to talk to her constantly, it's okay, you're gonna be fine, I mean, it's just, why did you make him Why didn't you make him the main character? Dang it! Why did you make him die? I think again also the predictability is just another thing. But the thing is you can have predictability within a movie, but the certain aspects that involve that predictability can maybe surprise some people. Maybe when, like with Tom Hanks, and when he comes out of out from being out in the middle of nowhere, when he comes back, you probably think, oh, maybe he'll get back together and his whole life will be all wrapped around in one nice big bow, but it's not really like that. And and you really do see how things have changed since he's gone. And with this movie, you only just get the disaster and then her landing on Earth, and that's it. Like, you don't get a full around context. And see, the thing is too, is this movie actually, I think, does start out in space. It doesn't start out with them leaving Earth, and that could have been something very interesting. The contrast, like kind of what they did with Apollo 13. You start on Earth, and then you go up, and then you have your experience up there, and then you come back. See, that's why those survival movies work, because they go in a cycle, and they work in this cycle to where there's more development with the characters, to where there's more context given to the characters. You can't just have your movie take place in space. You just can't have the disaster in your movie. You have to have some build up to the disaster, and you also have to have an extensive aftermath, so that there's more context given, and it's not just, yeah, okay, I survived, woohoo, yippee, yippee-dee, and and the fact too that she just presses like these just random buttons, like, oh, I don't know what to press, what do I do, I don't know what I'm doing, okay, I'll press that button, that should work, and it's just, no, that's just not how science works. And man, physics, all you physics people out there, I'm so sorry. This movie's probably the most unrealistic when it comes to physics. But again, there's, I think, a lack of believability, especially when you're doing it in this setting within space. Like, you really need to know how space works, and understand, like, what possibly could happen within space. That's why films like Apollo 13 really work, because they actually did happen, and there was context given, to make a story centered around the event. And in this movie, it's like, yeah, I just squirt this what is it? I don't know if it's like an oxygen thing. Or something, but these people probably saw WALL-E and were just like, yeah, she can just squirt it, and yay, that'll make her land where she needs to land, and it's just completely, it just lacks this kind of down to earthness that a lot of other survival stories have, that it makes it hard to watch. It makes it very difficult to understand, and it's really hard to get invested into it, because there's not a whole lot of context given to the characters. The George Clooney just dies off. Sandra Bullock's probably the more of the weaker characters, but then she's the one who survives, and but she's really not all that interesting, and there's just a lot of boring parts within this movie. There's just a lot of parts that don't hold a candle to, I think, a lot of other films that have focused on this type of survival type story. There's I think already a lot of films that do it, but this film could, again, have executed itself fairly well had they maybe focused on different things. Maybe had they made George Clooney the main character, because, again, a lot of survival type films I don't think really focus on characters that are so much into living on the edge. But if we did focus on that, and the character sort of learning, how precaution and maybe things like that are important to have, and it doesn't matter if and also using that survival on the edge instinct to say, hey, I don't care what happens to me, just as long as I get through this, just as long as I don't panic, then I think that could have provided an interesting and different concept when it comes to surviving in a survival type movie. But Gravity, ultimately, I don't think achieves this. I think it was just designed to be visual eye candy like Avatar was. I think it was designed to give the audience the impression that somehow there's something deep going on, but I really don't think there's a lot of depth with the things that it tries to address. Yeah, there might be some metaphors in there, but these metaphors, they're in other films too. It's not like suddenly your movie has a metaphor and suddenly it's, wow, it's so deep. No. It's the context of the story and the characters and the plot that make the movie. And I think Gravity was really lacking in certain departments when it came to that. So I think ultimately, though, that's really all I can say when it comes to Gravity. But again, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And again, I don't think that this movie was horrible. It's not like Chicago where I have really ethical and moral issues with it. It's just that this kind of setup, I think, was just very weak. And I think that it placed a detriment onto the film because, again, they set it up to be very visually appealing, but again, you need to have substance, otherwise yours is just a visual movie and nothing else. So I think, though, that's really ultimately all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody,